Hmm.
That's why I put the mask already. Well, I'm usually out of town on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I go to
I thought about that. Actually, the heading closer to
There's your video. Turn your start video. It's going to show my name because it's just.
Okay, what do I do?
yourself in there.
I was thinking of bringing my mic.
If you want to
He's been on there
24.
Oh, it has the volume.
How are you? No frost on the ground. Only on part of the back. You should get the other side, west or east of Vandermark Road. That's where they went to the fat tire track, so it was kind of packed down. So we stayed off of that, went on the other way. But God, it was great. We got 12 miles ahead of the traffic.
How was your hair?
Shorts and a t-shirt. Went to shorts.
Got harvest, produced a crop. And the market was
Now
okay.
these,
Of
I think
course, people were drinking more.
Yeah.
It took us about 60 pounds.
There was no frost, no water, no, it was all dry. Yeah, it was great fun.
Welcome aboard, Karen.
Fred,
Wow.
There, Flicker Regan joining you.
Nice to see you. Hard to tell who anybody is with these things.
On Sunday.
we'll
do roll call
soon here.
Ruthie is in Portland right now visiting Corey. So she took off Monday morning, so we went down Sunday and kicked around and had dinner with Dave and Molly, Dave and Kelly.
Beautiful yellow house.
That is exactly right, yeah. Thank you for saying that.
That was
We
fun.
moved in October of
You're good.
Thank you. See you later.
That's Sunday on the deck. That was good.
I walked around
I
that.
said we went to Teddy's. Next thing I know, it's 11:05.
well, we don't charge yet, so that's good, right? Actually, wait a minute, 2021, in 21 would be 2 years, we moved in the 19.
And I don't know how,
Golly, that doesn't seem possible.
I don't know how
Flies, doesn't it? Even in.
Kevin Wilmore.
Yeah, that's the truth, yeah. I slowed down a little bit, but still quick.
Yeah, that's a really classy house.
You're kind of.
Good enough.
A good
A
plan.
weird gamble.
Isn't,
I
I just got a
overbuilding for
email
the
from Kristen.
neighbors.
Isn't she on already?
Well, we've got two.
I got an appraisal recently, and it came out where I needed it.
Yeah, she is.
We went way over budget, and at the same time,
Power has arrived.
helping my taxes, my real estate taxes. So that'll work out well. Now there's another house going on second. There's gonna be two more here real recently. So,
Okay,
Yeah.
it is 4 o'clock. Is Flicka called in?
Yeah, we'll do roll call.
She's on
Yes, I'm here, but I'm labeled as John.
I'll do a roll call really quick here.
I just wanted to make sure. I knew she was calling in. I didn't know.
Jim Bartlett,
Here.
Jeff James,
It's here.
Tim Fletcher Rice,
Here.
Karen Stroh. Here. Thomas Graham Jr. Laura Coors,
Here.
McCullough,
Here.
Barry Rockowitz. Here. Flicker Reagan,
Here.
and Dick Schiller. So we have one, I think, Tom and Dick are just the two that aren't.
Great. Thanks everybody for coming. I'd like to welcome Karen to the table. City resident, voter. I'm looking forward to working with you. Do you know everybody? I know you know Bill. Do you know Tim and Fred?
Actually met Fred before. Hi.
And then James. Anyway, welcome. Glad to have you on board. First, First item of business is the approval of minutes from our last meeting in October. They were included in the packet. Any corrections?
I would like to make one correction.
Far away, Tim.
I am not and never have been a Timothy. I'm Tunis is my Christian name, if that makes any difference. But Timothy is one I dislike.
We don't want to make your day any harder.
Thank you.
Any other?
I did read the minutes. I didn't check for spelling, so I'd make a proposal that we accept the minutes with the change.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Same for opposed. Minutes are approved with that correction. Thanks, Andy, for putting that together. No comments? I see Michael Esposito in the audience. Thanks for coming, Michael.
Happy to be here.
You're ahead of the project down there, so now you got time?
I'm not ahead, but we're getting close. I keep saying that. We're getting close.
From my perspective, the building looks great, so.
Thank you.
Is there anyone on Zoom that has any public comment that's not related to item on the agenda? I don't hear any.
Great. Next item is the approval of the agenda. I'd like to add a report from the Harbor Commission Marina Park Representative Jeff James, either by him or by Victor, to the agenda, if that's okay with everybody. We'll do that under old business. Any objections to that? If not, we'll consider the agenda approved. Old business. Victor, you popped this on there. Why don't you walk us through it just a little bit?
Yes, so you guys recall last waive rule C11 on the screen, which
I can hear it.
Yeah, I can hear it.
But I can't do anything.
29 days, that month and a half period.
My Wi-Fi password is Bobby Boy.
Sorry, I'm gonna leave this person when it's talking. We waived it last year due to COVID-19 situation, because a lot of people didn't want to travel and couldn't travel, of course, because of the restrictions. This year, we had two questions to see if we were doing it. They didn't ask necessarily saying that we should do it, they just want to know if we were going to waive it again this year. And I don't see a pressing need to, because this state is opening up at this point. It looks like still voting is going to be a an outdoor activity. However, I would just leave it open to consideration if we get the situation turning worse and we do end up having state restrictions that shut this down in the future. That's my suggestion.
Victor, to be clear, Victor, your suggestion is to reinstitute the rule, not waive it again for this summer, but reserve the right to implement that change again if we go backwards in COVID issues.
Yes.
And this is just for seasonal stuff holders, not the transients?
Correct.
Yes,
Correct.
I think that's a good course from my perspective. What's everybody else think?
So basically, we're reserving the right to make the decision later.
Right, so right now we would be keeping the rule as is, but we can change it later, I guess.
We would be changing from last year's rule, which was where we didn't enforce this, to going back to normal, reserving the right to change it back if we see things get worse instead of better as the protractor on.
What is there was I assume you're talking about if you were to make the shift, it would be universal for
Right.
all. Okay.
Yeah, this would, I mean, right at this point, we're not gonna make an exception for it. I mean, the city manager does have the ability to do so, but last year we made a blanket exception, and I would think if the situation gets worse, we would do the same thing. Regarding COVID. Now,
I suppose there is a possibility an individual could be affected by COVID and
right,
have the problem, and then you would just handle that one as
Yes.
the administrator. Okay.
correct. So if someone sent me a letter and I would have to, on a specific case-by-case situation, as per the rule, I would analyze that and consider it based on the facts presented. But as a blanket, right, this would be a blanket exception, which I don't think we need to do.
Can you give an example of like when you might have to do that? I'm not sure how
Well,
it relates to this.
There could be, for example, and JB, you've been around longer, but there could be examples, someone perhaps maybe they got, had surgery or had an accident or something really tragic happened and they just can't make it to their morning or slip this season, so, but they don't want to lose their morning or slip, so we say, all right, we understand your circumstances this year, you can't make it, so we'll reserve it for next year, even though you won't occupy it this year. But they still have to pay the fee for keeping their boat there. I don't know any other examples in JD.
No, I think you hit it on the head. That's exactly why it's in there. Extenuating circumstances beyond the applicant's control, it makes sense. Or a reasonable person would not be able to come up here when they thought they had the intention to do it.
Yeah, the original intent in putting that in, if I recall, was basically to prevent squatting.
The rule.
Yeah, when we put the rule in place to begin with, it was to prevent squatting, not to like find another way to throw people out so much as to prevent abuse of the privilege.
No action.
We would, well, don't we need a motion to rescind, or was our action last year for a 1 year?
It was just an idea.
Okay,
So
so we need no action on this.
unless someone wants to. Are there any comments from the commissioners on on Zoom about this rule? I think Dick showed up as well. I think that's at his office, but I'm not sure. I thought I saw his face. Yeah, I showed up.
Well, I know he is out of town on vacation, so.
Yeah. JB, this is Dick. I'm here.
Great.
Yeah, I don't have any visual on anything, but I can hear everything.
Well, none of us look any better, so it's probably better that you don't have a visual.
Okay.
Appreciate you dialing in. All right, well, I don't hear a motion to do anything else, so by silence, we concur, and we'll go back to normal on this and see what happens. Jeff James is our representative on the Marina Park Committee. And Jeff, I know you weren't able to make that first meeting. Victor was there. Maybe you could kind of keep us in the loop of what's going on down there. My intention is to make sure that the Harbor Commission knows what's going on with that piece of property that's obviously adjacent to the docks down there.
So the first meeting was mostly an introductory meeting. There's nine Marina Park Committee members and there's one alternate. Everyone was there. Jeff just was not there. He was out of town. But we discussed some introductions. Everyone kind of gave their vision of what they're thinking they want to see at that park for the short term as well as the long term. There's some discussion about the location of the Harbor Master Building and how that might affect the plans. But the conversation steered to, we got to focus on short-term plans right now. That's what our first priority is, what we're going to do there this summer and perhaps next summer. So these short-term changes would be something minor, landscaping, picnic table, something, nothing that's going to be permanent fixture there. So once we figure that out, then we're going to move on into long-term goals for that area. So I think most of the people are excited on the committee. They kind of got their ideas out there in the open and their concerns and what they think are challenges with the space. So now we're just going to focus in on short-term solutions. Hopefully within the next 2 months, let's see, by the end of May, they'll have, or by mid-May, they'll have a solution they can go to council with for the short-term, or to do their short-term. And it could be, like I said, something simple. They were talking about shade, landscaping, fix the grass, because it looks pretty bad there. Something like, so those are the ideas that we're throwing out for short-term.
Great.
So they'll be meeting twice a month for the first few months as they try to figure out a short-term solution. And then they'll be going to once a month meetings once they figure out a short-term solution.
Just popped into my head. If Jeff can't make another meeting, is it appropriate to have somebody else from the Harbor Commissioner show up in his place, or is it best?
So council decided for that reason appoint an alternate. So they just had another alternate there to fill in for if someone can't attend.
Okay.
From the other. So there's really not much to vote on except for recommendations to council when they figure out what they want to do with short term. So it's really, I would suggest if you can't make it, Jeff, is that if you see the agenda, submit any written comments beforehand, so Danny has those. Or, so that we'll talk to Danny on the phone. That way, at least he'll know your perspective. I know you've talked to him too, right? Yeah.
You know, sadly, I'll be here all of April, till the 28th, I think it is, so
Okay.
even then gone for a little while, not very long. So I think I'm really good for April and May, to tell you the truth. And beyond that, I want to be here in the summer, so.
Okay, great.
So that's what I have. Any questions from the park commissioners about the Marina Park Committee?
I have a question for you on short term. Is there money in the budget to do short term things like fixing up the grass or landscaping?
There is money, but the amount of money is still not determined yet, so unspecified. So that's a question that committee members had as well. And there's a lot of factors there.
Great, no questions for Victor. Thank you for the update. Jeff, thanks for being on the committee. Let's move on to new business. First item is a request from Detroit Athletic Club for an August rendezvous. This was in your packet, a letter from Kristen Ritter, who I've had a number of conversations with as this has developed on it, as has Mike Johnson on it. Kristen, I believe you're on the line with us.
Yes, I am. I'm just here listening in and hoping that we can get approval.
Okay, great. Is there anything you want to add to this letter while you're in front of the board, or?
I just want to introduce also Rob Barr is our Detroit Athletic Club athletic director, and he's also on listening in. And you know, we've done a long-term event for almost 30 years up north, and it's a fantastic event that we've done year in and year out in Harbor Springs, and a lot of our members have homes up there, and both that live up there permanently, as well as folks that have homes in there in the summer. And so it's an annual tradition, and so we just want to enhance it further by allowing folks to bring up their boats. And that's hence the request.
I have a question. In your letter, it says that you're asking for 20 boats. Are some of the boats that would attend already moored in Harbor Springs or docked in Harbor Springs?
No.
Okay, so you're asking for a total of 20 spaces for the time?
Yes, correct.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rick. As a general overview on this, the commission has dealt with requests like these numerous times, I think, over the course of the years. And traditionally, we have welcomed rendezvous. We just had a great one last summer, I think, with not the East Bays, but the Grand Banks.
Yeah.
But what we've tried to do at the table in the past, and we're not bound by that for the future, but is to not have consecutive weekends in the heart of the summer where we line these things up, i.e. keeping the general public off of the dock for what is really probably the 2 nicest weekends of the summer. To that end, in working with the DAC prior to this final submission on the request, the first two work around the weekend right after Regatta, as you can see, and the third one takes a week off and also comes up midweek. So they are actually, they'd love to come on their first choice, obviously, but that puts us in the same position we've been in before, where there's a very high demand weekend and we're guaranteeing somebody the opportunity to come up, and that hasn't been seen as the right way to do that. So I'm anxious to hear what everybody else wants to say on this. Just because we've done it that way in the past doesn't mean we have to do it in the future. So I'll open the table up for discussion.
And JD, just to add, I have Mike Johnson on the phone because he has issues.
Oh, good.
logging in on Zoom. So if you need to ask Mike or his thoughts as well, he's on the phone.
Well, I'm glad you called, because I think Mike got to weigh in on this, because he's dealing with this not only from the perspective of the rendezvous participants, but more importantly, the general public who gets displaced in there. So Michael, if you've got comments about this, we'd love to hear them.
First off, that mostly out on this.
Absolutely.
And they were flexible enough to their midweek, which is essentially once these are right, which worked out great for us. We also moved their team back to
weekend after regatta, which typically sees people who know that we have regatta love to come to Harbor Springs immediately afterwards because they know basically everybody flushes out and the docks are, open for transients again. So if we could somehow work with DAC to get them to potentially do a midweek event, I think that'd work better for everybody all the way around.
Thanks, Michael. Anybody have any questions for Mike?
We're basically at 100% occupancy during that time frame. Yes, Mike?
Yes, we are. Yep. And I've already gotten at least, not anywhere near my computer right now because unfortunately I'm in self-quarantine, but we're looking at 24 boats looking to come our way immediately after regatta.
20 boats, I think.
Well, no, this is 24 boats not associated with DAC as transients looking to come our way immediately after regatta.
We have, at the DAC's request, 3 different time periods that they're looking at. Why don't we deal with them one at a time? Is anybody a proponent of the first one, which would be the Thursday through Sunday after regatta, August 5th through the 8th?
May I ask,
Yes, you may.
when is regatta?
I think the last weekend in July.
July 30th to August 1st, I believe.
Yes.
Okay.
Moved in.
And when was the rendezvous last summer? Because that seemed to work, in my opinion. What were the dates of that one?
The Growth by Apple event?
Yes,
The one-
Michael.
Well, there's an intervening week at the end of regatta, and they came to us the Wednesday of that second week following regatta weekend.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
And how the Grand Banks was also, I think that tends to work for people. So the later, the better, in my opinion.
I would agree.
Next event came to us the second week in August as well. Well removed from regatta weekend.
And I think what we're hearing is the policy we've had in the past has been working from both the participants and from the harbor master's perspective about not stacking that weekend after a busy weekend on that. And to that end, the third request from the DAC beginning Wednesday, August 11th and ending Saturday, August 14th fits with what we've done in the past with both of our most recent previous 2 rendezvous. And I would be inclined to entertain saying yes to that. But I'm open to what everybody else wants to hear too.
I would agree with you as a transient boat owner who's in and out of the harbor. As a local, it gets discouraging when you can't get in. And I'm sure people being locked out for a couple of weekends in a row could be a problem. Could get some pretty bad pushback from that. So I agree with you, JB. It seems like that would be the better time.
Listening to Mike, it sure sounds like that's the best option, Wednesday, August 11th to Saturday, the 14th. I would add though, Kristen, or talking to Mike or whoever you're talking to, there needs to be some kind of drop dead date as far as these 20 boats. I think you're kind of doing it like a wedding or something. You think you're going to have 20 families, but 10 show up. So if sometime in July or whatever date Michael picks, you kind of have to be committed. Can't just do it the week before, put it that way.
Yeah. And again, we were trying to align with the event that's always been the first Saturday in August to accommodate and so we could just do it together because we have a car event, a classic car event as well. So, but we would, we really want to do this. We'd love to do it in Harbor Springs. Would you possibly be willing to allow maybe a half a dozen boats come up early and stay over that second week?
Well, we're a first come, first served marina, Kristen, so we don't make reservations for that. If your boats were here and they fit in with our 7-day stay rule, and then coincided with the arrival of the Wednesday, August 11th deal, I would think that would work out. I want to run that by Michael, but I don't know why that wouldn't work, but we wouldn't guarantee you 6 boat stockage prior to the start of your rendezvous. That seems
Okay.
hard to what
So that would be a separate, okay.
Michael, does that make some sense to you?
Absolutely, we could work around that. And I'll add to that too, that with the Grosse Pointe Yacht Club event last year, they put a hard deadline of July 1st to find out who was going to be there and who wasn't. And we ended up with a few cancellations, but it also allowed us to open up space for transient boats during that weekend or during that week. So to be able to put a hard deadline on things would really help us out a lot in planning your putting together a dock plan for a boat you're going to go.
Yeah, we can absolutely do that. They're pros at this at the Detroit Athletic Club. So absolutely, that's not a problem. And we can submit all the necessary specifics that you need in advance as well.
Okay.
Well, then I would entertain a motion one way or the other on this from anybody, and if not, I'll make it myself. But
I have a thought. Could we back them up a day or two, like let them start on the 11th or something? Because then if they came up for their show and were like at Petoskey or at Bay Harbor and then come over, can we help them out any better to match their coordinating weekend event?
That's the third choice that's suggested. That's the third choice is the 11th. And yeah.
But I mean, if you came the 10th, would that help you? Or not? No difference.
No, that it doesn't, because our event is on Friday the 6th and Saturday the 7th.
Okay.
Laura, these dates came from the DAC after several conversations I had with.
Oh, sorry.
Regarding what times might work best and how that might fit in. And the Wednesday 11th is one they picked, not one that we picked or I picked for them.
Okay, thank you.
The suggestion's a good one. I don't think I'd have any trouble if you wanted to come on Tuesday or even Monday, just so you're away from the weekend. But they picked the 11th, so that's what we're debating right now.
So I would move that we target those dates for their gathering in Harbor Springs, the 11th through the 14th. It seems to be the most reasonable. And you're willing to do that, which is nice, Kristen, thank you.
I'll second that.
Would it make sense, Karen, to add with a confirmation deadline of July 1 to work with the harbor master on that? Do we want to put a minimum number of boats on it?
What a maximum number of boats.
Yeah, I don't think we need.
The maximum is already at 20, if I read this right.
Is that our maximum or is that the DAC's maximum?
That's where the DAC came from. I think we were talking about 20 boats in here.
Yes, yeah, that number came up.
About approximately 20 boats is what it says.
Yes.
We had 30 and we were encouraged to move it down to from 30 to 20, just so we could maybe consider that first choice, but we're good with 20. This is our first time doing it.
Have we set minimums before?
Pardon me?
Have we set minimums for other rendezvous?
No, but I know Michael did have some cancellations on that. I guess my fear would be is if they say they're going to give us 20 boats and 5 show up, why are we working so hard at this, so to speak?
No, I can tell you from early interest, we're going to have, this will sell out very quickly. We might even be able to get you a list by mid-June. There are crossover members between the Grosse Pointe Yacht Club and the DAC.
Yeah, I think setting that date actually solves that problem.
And Fred, you're okay with the seconding the motion with the addition of the deadline of July 1 on that? So we have a motion on the floor that's been seconded. Is there any further discussion?
I have one question, JB. Are they planning to dock for 4 nights, like August 11th, 12th, 13th, and 14th, or are they vacating on the 14th?
As I read this, they're asking for dockage Wednesday, Thursday, Friday evenings and leaving on Saturday the 14th. Kristen, is that correct?
Yes, and we would like to work with Mike if there's, if there's a few that would like to stay over on Saturday or a few that would like to leave on Friday or something like that, with some flexibility. That would be great.
Flicka, the reality is at that time of year, we would probably have room for a few folks, as Christian suggested, if they wanted to stay longer on that, just because of the nature of the season.
Okay.
So I don't think we'll have with any of that.
Thank you.
Do we need a roll call vote on this, Victor?
Well, for those that are participating remotely.
Yeah, probably a good idea. Why don't you go ahead, Dan?
All right, Flicker Reagan,
Yes.
Laura Kors,
Yes.
Nick Schiller,
Yes.
Jeff James,
Yes.
Tim Fletcher Rice,
Yes.
Floyd Rockwood,
Yes.
Bill McCullough,
Yes.
Aaron Stroud,
Yes.
Jim Bartlett,
Yes.
and I see a Tom's iPad. I don't know who that is, but maybe it's Tom Graham, but
Doesn't sound like it.
motion passes.
Well, Christian, the motion carried unanimously. That means you did a good job putting this together. Thank you with working with us, and we'll look forward to seeing you guys in August.
Well, thank you very much. And we look forward to hopefully seeing you. Myself personally, we're up there a lot. My family's up there. So look forward to seeing you. And thanks again for the approval. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Coffee.
Next item on the agenda, Michael, is a harbor master update.
We've got a coffee maker and a Keurig both.
It'll be a quickie. We're gonna start, actually Squire started the electrical inspection this week. Now that the weather's broken a little bit, in fact, it broke really hard about a half hour ago, as you may have noticed looking out your window. So that should be done most likely by no later than Monday of next week. So we'll be able to give you guys an update on our electrical issues. Not that we know if we're gonna have any, but be able to update you back on that in June, our first meeting. A big item is, I think we discussed this at last October's meeting, but we, along with Waltham Dock and Dredge and Flotation Docks, will be repurposing the 5-foot dock sections that we purchased 2 years ago, 2 seasons ago, to replace the existing transition dock at Fort Park. Last year, that was replaced with a 10-foot wide section to accommodate the ferry service. And those 5-foot wide dock stations have been languishing up at the DPW over last season. And the intent is to replace the existing trestle dock that we use to join up with the floating dock sections for the shopper's dock with those floating dock sections from the DPW. Put those to good use. Last year, we had quite a few issues with the trestle dock that creates that transition to the floater. That actually lifted itself up a couple of times in all the high water east wind that we had. So we're going to be reusing that dock and hopefully eliminate that problem altogether down the road. And also provide safer berthing for any dinghies that lay alongside that dock. With the high water last year, we had quite a few issues with boats hanging up underneath the dock. And the floating dock with the high sidewalls should eliminate that problem altogether and be a much easier and more usable dock for folks. So that's our intent.
Great plan.
Yep. And we're hoping to accomplish that as soon as the weather breaks, as soon as they know the ice has left the harbor. We're first on Waltham's agenda right now. They're going to start with the launch dock, the ferry dock, and then they're going to come over and take care of the courtesy dock section. So we should have all that accomplished by the time we open up mid-May, if not sooner.
Any questions for Michael?
How much is the water down?
About 10 inches right now, which is excellent. And forecast to be more normal than what we've had the last couple of years. So that's all.
Yeah, I was down there today. It's pretty gratifying to see probably a foot of air underneath all the fixed dock sections in the west dock. That made me pretty happy. Makes it a lot more user friendly.
Yeah, hopefully we're past the worst of that. We did not have hardly any freeze this year. And we didn't have a heck of a lot of system snow, so precipitation in the basin was down, so water levels reflected. So that's great. Any other questions for Michael? That concludes our agenda. And any comments from the commissioners?
Yes.
And I think you didn't speak up during public comment, Michael. Anything you want to?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Well, then, hearing no motions coming forward, I declare the meeting adjourned. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.